So let's talk about the logistics of our online exam. If you've had me before, there might have been some changes, so heads up on this, and that's why I put the date down over there. But first of all, we got to talk about the honor code. So as you are doing this, you're doing this online. That's why we have the honor code, because frankly, that's the other reason why I'm talking about some other camera angles and stuff like that. Just make sure you don't cheat. We're going to be watching you, literally what you're doing. We're going to watch what your computer's doing, your screen, and everything else like that. And that helps us cut down on cheating for our exam. So just remember, you're under the honor code for the class. So preparation before the exam. So there's not going to be any notes. There's no cheat sheets. You know, it might be applicable if you're going to pick exam time. Normally you can't. You need to create, if I haven't mentioned this already, you need to create an account on Gradescope.com. Remember, there's two things you actually have to do. Create the account and then download the app on your cell phone, and just the app, so that you can take pictures of your paper portion of the work for the test and upload it into Gradescope, because that's where we're going to be grading that part of it. It's also part of your submission process too. So if we don't get anything from you from Gradescope, then you get a 0. So just that simple when it comes to that. So be very careful that you've gotten that done. The other part is make sure you have your school ID and your desktop setup. This is the perfect setup of what we got here. I see the side of your face. I see this one has 3 monitors, which is just fine. I see a keyboard. I see maybe a paper in front where you can see your elbows. This is a perfect setup. I will, even though there might be 100 of you, 50 of you, whatever, I will tell you to fix this if I don't see it the way I have it here. Because frankly, this is easier for me to tell if you're cheating or not, which again, 99% of you didn't even think of. But sadly, there's always that one. So this is a setup that I want from you. Notice, by the way, that this is not a camera on the, I think he has a camera right there on his computer. This is actually a cell phone or another standalone camera that they're using that's plugged in and then going from there. So don't use, if it's built into your computer, don't use that one, because frankly, it doesn't give me the angle that I want. So make sure it looks exactly like I have right here. You also want to make sure that you kind of have a quiet area. I'm not going to hear anything because you'll be muted, but I'm really mean this for you. So you don't want to be near a bathroom. That's a story I really don't want to tell you about, but try to be in an area that's going to be good for you in order to take the test. Preparing Gradescope with your worksheet or your Gradescope worksheet. There's nothing really to prepare for this, but I have a Google Doc that says the Gradescope worksheet, and it's 12 some pages. I would go ahead and print them all out just for giggles. At the very top of the page, it'll have a topic of the question, and then you'll do that while you're taking the test, because you have no idea what the topics are going to be. So it's very simple. It's only got a couple lines on it. That's about it. That's where most of your work will be done. Now, there are going to be some questions in our overall test that you're going to be able to complete online. So it's only going to be a few of the questions that you're really going to need on paper. Go ahead and scan it and then upload that to Gradescope. And the exam will tell you that. So just a heads up, it'll tell you which ones are acceptable to put into Canvas or Blackboard, whatever we're using, and then those that really need to be done on paper and sent up to Gradescope. So location of the exam, it's always going to be, we always do things by modules. It'll be under the document modules, under midterm or final once we get to that. And remember, you're going to be using my office hours Zoom link to connect with me and the rest of the class that's taking it all at the same time. So again, it's not a new link or anything else like that. It's the same link that you've hopefully visited me during office hours. Make sure you use that to connect with me. Overall procedure of the exam, a couple of minor things. So once you enter, go ahead and into the chat room before the exam starts up. I'll probably be there 15-20 minutes before. All I want you to do is inside the chat, say hi, and that's one way of recording that you were there. Nothing really crazy with that. You're going to be asked to show your ID eventually. It'll usually be a minute or two before the exam starts, something of that nature. You're going to enter the exam hopefully on time here. We're going to have a password for you to get into it, so you may be able to look at the intro screen, but you're going to have to wait for the password to get into the rest of it. Then the questions are going to appear on the screen. So you're not downloading anything or anything else like that. There might be a couple of questions I take back that you'll need to download some code, some starter code just to get things rolling, but there's nothing big that you're downloading that you can't handle. Let's just put it that way. But the questions are going to appear right on the quiz. or on the, they call it quiz in Canvas, or on the test, whatever you want to call it. But again, the problems themselves will tell you if you can do it right there on the learning management system, or you're going to have to do it on paper and submit it using the Gradescope app. Complete the problems on your work paper, the ones that require you to do it on paper. You'll need the Zoom chat feature to ask me or the proctor any questions. Please just don't open up your mic and start yelling. I've had that a few times. Please use the chat, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Now, give us a moment to get to you, because there's literally 100 of you sometimes and one of me or one of the proctor. It takes us a little while to get there. We'll get there. You know, if it's beyond 3 or 4 minutes, then you might want to do a polite, hey, can you answer this question for me? Because as you know, the chat box, it's very small. And also, you know, if I have 100 of you and there's 5 or 6 questions, they kind of disappear really fast. So trust me, we're not ignoring you, but please be patient. Give it 3 or 4 minutes. If you don't hear anything from us, go ahead and then retype it in politely and let us know, hey, can you answer this? And then we'll get back to you. But there's a lot going on in the chat usually, trust me. So within 15 minutes of after the exam is done, of a completion or the timeout, you need to start using your Gradescope app on your phone to start taking pictures of any work that you did on paper. Now, to be honest with you, the app takes care of all this. Open the app, you sign in, you start taking pictures of it, and it automatically sends it up. The only thing I think that you have to do is tell it where to open up or where to submit your stuff, which in this case will be midterm or final. You know, real simple, try to keep the name simple here, but that's the only thing that you really have to do. After you've submitted it, Gradescope is one that's got the time check on it. It's only going to be open for 15 minutes. So after that 15 minutes of when the exam is done, if you haven't submitted it, you're going to get a 0. So make sure that you have practiced this, that you're good to go with it. I should have given you a practice assignment already for it. Usually it's called Test 1 or some trial. I think it's called Trial, actually. Try it out if you haven't done that already, but make sure it works out and it's good for you. If you miss any pages, sadly I get this every semester. Oh, Professor Poli, I forgot to submit this page. That's a 0. In that 15 minutes, I get everything. If you happen to miss one, that's on you. It's not on me. Because I honestly don't know if you got extra time, and that's not fair for everybody else. So just a heads up when it comes to that. Be very, very careful. When you're submitting and everything's kind of getting done here, the instructional staff has duties. The instructor is going to answer any questions. The TA will really, I wouldn't say confirms the emails. This is really to me. The TA is going to make sure that everything's going okay in Gradescope and that things are uploading. You actually should get a confirmation that it has been uploaded into Gradescope. So that's the good news. Again, nothing that I do on that. This is really kind of what we behind the scenes are taking care of. So time limit, like I said before, during your exam, there will be a clock on there telling you how much time you've got left. It's a normal length of time, and unless you're taking it somewhere else, so you have extended time, which is just fine. But the exam is usually auto-submit. So after our time that's done, it usually starts to submit from there, and I usually give you a warning or something of that nature, but just a heads up. But again, after the exam, you have that 15-minute window where you're using your Gradescope app, you're getting it up, getting it out of there, and that's it. Go from there. So be careful that you have and you know about the 15 minutes. Taking scans of your work, just try to make sure that all of your work is in the shot. Some of you are terrible at taking pictures of all things. So also lighting matters. So if you make sure you have enough lighting and make sure it looks good, because if you submit it and I can't read anything, that's also a 0. I just can't do anything about that. That's really up to you. So make sure you have good lighting when you take your photos of your work. So that's it for right now. Notice that Gradescope is taking care of most of the work after you've done that work in the exam. Notice again that not everything on the exam will need to be done with Gradescope's help. So just a heads up on that. If you have any questions, please ask me personally. Don't ask the TAs or something like that. Ask me personally. I'll be happy to help you, happy to go over it and go from there. Let me know if you have any, and I'll see you in a bit.